The November 2021 Level 3 CFA exam results were posted today, and there's an interesting story here. Before we jump into this one though, please be aware that I'm doing some live streaming every Thursday night for the next 3 weeks on a CFA preparation course that I've created on Lighthall. Check out the link in the description down below. Lighthall is totally free to use for you to create an account and enroll in my course. There are going to be 3 classes that I've put together to talk through all of my processes that I use to pass all 3 CFA exams. So don't forget to sign up on Lighthall and join into the live streams. Check out my courses there. The pass rate was still extremely low. It was a little bit higher than we saw for the last sitting of the Level 3 exam, which was just 39%. Now it was about 43%, but that's still 10% lower from what I consider to be like the 10-year average. So of course that sucks for a lot of the candidates who did not pass this Level 3 exam. The more interesting point though is that it looks like we had the lowest minimum passing score in the history of the CFA exams. The estimate from 300hours.com for this last sitting of the Level 3 test was that you only needed to score 53%. You just needed 53% of the points on that test to pass the exam, and still the pass rate was very low. Think about a test where you only need to get half the questions right, and still the majority of people are not able to pass that test. There can really only be 2 primary causes of that type of a scenario. Number 1, the exam candidates were woefully unprepared compared to all candidates of the past, and in aggregate, people just did not study very much or very well. They didn't know the material going into the exam room. That scenario is extremely unlikely, considering many of these November Level 3 candidates had plenty of time because of deferrals in the past to study for their Level 3 exam, and considering that they cleared the Level 2 exams in some of the instances in the past where those pass rates were the lowest it's ever seen, which means that you sort of had the cream of the crop Level 2 candidates sitting for this November 2021 Level 3 exam. So I wouldn't buy for a minute that this group of candidates was extremely unprepared. The only other cause that could lead to this scenario we are seeing now is if the questions on the exam were historically difficult. Think about it, right? You have a group of candidates that's pretty likely well prepared for the test. You have an extremely low minimum passing score, an extremely low hurdle that has to be cleared to say that you passed the exam, but yet we still have a very low pass rate. You would expect that like 75% of the candidates would have passed this thing if you only needed to answer half the questions right, assuming that the questions were equally as difficult as they have been in the past, and that's obviously not what we're seeing. Now, I haven't spoken to anyone who took the November Level 3 exam, but I would be willing to bet that these extremely historically difficult questions came in the AM section, which is the essay section. There are 2 good reasons to think that these extremely historically difficult questions were on the AM portion. Number 1, the AM portion of the Level 3 exam is just notorious for being the more difficult portion. The PM section, which is the regular vignette section, everyone's familiar with because everyone's passed Level 2 that's taking this test, so it's nothing new. You're likely going to be able to have prepared very well for the PM section of the Level 3 exam. It's the AM section, however, that a ton of candidates run out of time on or are unfamiliar with how to formulate their answers, or just have difficulty in translating from their native language to English into their native language to process thoughts and then back into English on the page. There's difficulties there. And to be honest, a lot of the questions are just really hard. I know on my Level 3 exam in 2017, some of them were just extremely tough. Then also consider the fact that this was a computer-based Level 3 exam, meaning the essay style answers had to be typed in on a keyboard rather than written out on an entire piece of notebook paper like mine was, where you have a lot of areas to earn partial credit. I know a little bit about how the Level 3 AM essay section grading happens. I was invited by the Institute to be a Level 3 AM section exam grader, but when I asked them about potentially making a YouTube video about my experience, they said, no, sorry, you can't make the YouTube video. And then I said, okay, well, I don't want to be a grader. But anyway, it just involves training a pretty significant group of people over the course of a few days on how to grade the essay style questions. And then you get assigned a big chunk of exams and you go through all of them and you grade the same exact question, question 3, for example, across hundreds of Level 3 exams. I would not be surprised if the graders had a difficult time in finding a consistent way to grade those keyboard entered essay questions, and especially how to assign partial credit to those keyboard entered essay questions rather than the handwritten things where you can show all your formulas and circle lines and underline things and box your final answers. So I think it's fair to assume that the November 2021 Level 3 candidates saw some of the single most difficult CFA exam questions in the history of the entire CFA program on their AM sections of that test. And if you failed this recent level 3 exam and you feel like the AM session was unfair or extremely difficult, I totally feel for you there. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if you were dealt, the most difficult hand of all CFA candidates ever, unfortunately. And the more that I talk about this, the more surprising it is to me that the CFA Institute could administer an exam where the minimum passing score is just 53%. You only have to get half the points. And less than half the candidates were able to do that. It just seems like something is off in the way that the questions are being written, or potentially in the way that they're getting scored in terms of their difficulty by the standard setters after the exams have been taken. Something seems disconnected from what we've seen from the CFA exams over the past 10 years. Obviously, that's been the case over the past year and a half. But with this low of an MPS, just 53% of the questions needed to be correct to pass the exam, and for there not to be a higher percentage of candidates passing, yeah, this had to be a tough one. This video is going to be short and sweet. Let me know in the comments down below if any of you took the level 3 exam and you think my theories here might be accurate or inaccurate. Don't forget to check out my page on Lighthall and enroll in my 3-class course on the best ways to prepare for the CFA exams, where I'm going to be doing some live streaming and talking with all of you who sign up on my thought processes, study routines, study tips and tricks, all those types of things. I'm excited to be live streaming. The link for my Lighthall page is in the description down below, and as always, thanks for watching.